quarterback Dak Prescott had the worst loss of his career against the San Francisco 49ers, 42-10. Just an absolute devastating loss for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones then has his back on the radio saying he is the quarterback who can lead me to the Super Bowl. What do you make of Jerry Jones' comments? Because I know that you speak Jerry.
Yeah, and of course I was there. We were there in San Francisco for that loss. Dak called it the most humbling.
Yeah.
So was it the worst score of all time? Was it the most painful of all time? Well, losing in the playoffs is painful. Most humbling because you thought you were as good as them.
Mm-hmm. And 42-10 tells you that you're not as good as them.
You're not. In fact, I'll extend that a little bit as the Cowboys continue, not as loudly as they did before, talking about that they're still good and we still got a great defense. Do the math. You had the greatest defense in the world when you were beating teams 38-10. Now somebody just beat you 42-10. So if you're great, what in the world are they? They must be otherworldly if you're great. Right now, this is a tough situation for Dak Prescott because there is a hole to climb out of. And it's not a statistical hole, although some people think that 3 interceptions make it that.
Yeah.
I think it's an emotional hole, and I think it might be a talent hole. Maybe they're just not as good. Maybe he's just not as good as many thought he would be. I sometimes wonder if that calf injury just made him not quite the same in a number of ways, including his mobility. The running Dak Prescott, which was in play in the first couple of years of his career, is a non-factor now. And if Dak Prescott is reduced to just being a pocket quarterback, well then he's half the weapon, arguably, that he might have been otherwise. Having said all that, and we've been doing with this with Jerry Jones for 33 years, what is he supposed to say other than, I'm committed to my quarterback, I'm committed to my coach, I'm committed to my team. There is plenty of time to uncommit if this thing goes really south. And I don't think that's where it's going. I still think this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
But down the line here, pretty soon, Philadelphia, Detroit, Miami, and I'm leaving somebody out. There is the Bills.
Yeah.
And and then at Washington to close the season, which has not always been easy for this team. So the final 6 or so games of this season, and also Bree, Christmas Eve in Miami. You talk about psychology.
Yeah.
That's a psychology. They're at home on Christmas Eve. You're not. It might be hot and muggy there on Christmas Eve.
Right.
That game, if I'm not mistaken, happens the week after you go to Buffalo, where it's not going to be hot and muggy.
Yeah, the temperature shift there is fast.
And so you're starting now to deal with teams that are as good as you and circumstances that can overcome you. So there's no question that Jerry Jones must support his present cast, but that doesn't mean that everybody has support for the year of 2024.
Micah Parsons says that the Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers are quote-unquote close. Now, what do you make of all of Micah's beef with all of the Niners and a lot of the talk that's coming out of the Cowboys camp?
I guess I come from a different generation, because when I played a game and my team lost 42-0, 42-10, I barely had the energy to shake their hand. I barely had the energy to look them in the eye. And then I grabbed my duffel bag, put my tail between my legs, and went to the parking lot. And maybe that's just not what guys do now.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons saying we're the same. Oh, we're still the same as they are. After 42-10,
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, great respect for Micah Parsons, what he's built, and I respect his intellect too and his approach. I know you do as well. He's clearly trying to generate positive energy, and I get it. But you also have to look in the mirror. And 42-10, I don't know what other measure you want. There's only 2 measures: standings and scoreboard. Are the only 2 ways you get measured. This isn't college football where the SID and the media gets to vote on who's good.
Yeah.
There is no vote. This is it. 42-10, that's it. Well, we're going to get them again. You're probably not at the rate you're going.
Yeah.
And if you do, you probably don't want it. And when he comes out, not only and talks about we're the same as them, but then does the George Kittle T-shirt thing, where he basically vows revenge and says we've got a plan to pay him back. No, you don't. That all happened too fast. That would have meant that on Monday, Micah met with Dan Quinn and formulated a plan to get back George Kittle. The plan should have been beat them. And the plan against George Kittle should be cover him. He had 3 touchdown catches in that game after having none in the previous month. You did not have a strategy for George Kittle, and Cowboy fans have no reason to have faith that you'll have a strategy for him again, nor do Cowboy fans have any reason to believe that if you play him again, you're going to win.
Right.
So to me, there's some of this let's generate some positive energy. To me, there's some of this that you must look in the mirror and maybe you like what you see.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use an old grandpa phrase, whistling past the graveyard. You even know what I'm talking about?
No.
Whistling past the graveyard means, oh, it's a graveyard. I'm scared out of my wits, but I'm whistling like it's nothing. That's called whistling past the graveyard. I fear for Cowboys Nation that's what some of your Cowboy team leaders are doing right now.
The desire to bounce back is certainly there. We just need to see the Cowboys now actually bounce back.
And focus on the focus.
Yeah.
The 49ers have nothing to do with you now. I mean, they're laughing at you. Your job now is to go back on national TV. Now it's Monday Night Football.
Yes.
It's at SoFi in Los Angeles, a gigantic national stage against a scary, I don't know if they're a good Chargers team, but they're a scary Chargers team.
Yeah.
You better get your head screwed on that West Coast team, not that West Coast team.
Speaking of the Chargers, what do you think the Cowboys need to do to beat their former offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore?
They are very vulnerable, the Chargers are, defensively.
True.
So this is an opportunity for Dak Prescott and the Texas Coast offense. By the way, we're not selling very many Texas Coast offense t-shirts right about now, nor are we selling very many Dallas Doomsday t-shirts right about now in the Uncle Fish store.
It does feel like everything has been deflated here at the start.
I would say that's true. In fact, a sidebar before we get to the Chargers and Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
And this is true in a lot of NFL cities, I'm sure, but it's historically been discussed here. The Monday after a Cowboys loss, and you've lived here long enough now, there is a I don't mean to use depression in the clinical sense.
Yeah.
There is a state of depression that falls over DFW. Mm-hmm. Businesses don't run as crisply. Guys that are supposed to open their shops at 9 come straggling in at 9:20. Oil and gas doesn't fly around. The money, it really doesn't.
Certainly the jersey sales slow down.
Not to mention Cowboy-related business. So, there is a cloud hanging over this building, the Star in Frisco. There really is. It's not a black cloud, but there it is. I mean, it's cloudy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kellen Moore will obviously be inspired. No question about that.
And he's coming off a bye week, so you got to imagine he's had all the time
extra practice and extra rest. Now, more inspired than the Cowboys? Maybe shouldn't the Cowboys be inspired to go beat him too?
You know.
So I sometimes, it's kind of like bulletin board material. Does it like fire you up to go lift weights on Wednesday? Yes. Fire you up to watch film on Thursday? Yes. Does it really help you win on Sunday? Once the game starts, are you really thinking about what some guy said back on Wednesday? And I think once the game starts, Kellen Moore will do the same, his best, that he does every week.
Right.
And the Cowboys ought to be doing the same, their best, as they do every week. But yes, Jerron Kerr said this. He said he's probably chomping at the bit to come get us, but we're chomping at the bit to go play somebody again too and prove that what happened last week isn't the real us.
And since Moore's taken over play calling for the Chargers, they've gone from 18th in total offense to 5th in the league. So what he's doing is obviously working.
And the weaponry there, your old friend
Justin Herbert.
The weaponry is there. They lose Mike Williams, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler, he says, I'm 99%. I'm going to be back at running back. The wide receiver, they don't have Mike Williams, but they still have a guy who catches 13 balls in a game at times. What they do not have is a defense that matches up very well here. And if the Cowboys have to win a high-scoring game, this is the defense against which to do it.
True.